إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending immense greetings and salutations upon the final Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. In the previous khutbah, bifadlillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, we highlighted the importance of Ramadan being waqtul tabdeel or waqtul tagheer. Ramadan being the ideal opportunity to change ourselves, to move away from the actions of possibly of disobedience, of ma'asi wa dhunub, disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to a life of obedience, to maybe a life of following trivial pursuits, as they say, or laziness or stagnation inside the a'mal, and focusing ourselves more, exerting ourselves more in this blessed month of Ramadan, whereby we mentioned that the reward is multiplied many times over, to such a degree that some of the fuqaha discuss even an-nawafil, that these actions are multiplied many times over a person who carries them out in this blessed month of Ramadan. This intent of change should not just be an intention, because we find that many of us, or some of us, just focus upon I intend to change, but we don't make the positive steps. That's why sometimes you find that people make passing comments, maybe going to the masjid or doing a good action, then the person will say, pray for me, ask Allah to guide me, ask Allah to help me. فَهَذَا غَيْرْ مَعْقُولٍ. It doesn't make sense. What is preventing you from coming to the masjid? What is preventing you from doing a good deed? This stagnation, this mentality that we find, that pass my actions to another individual, let someone else pray for me, let someone else ask for my guidance, let someone else help me. And this psychological development that we find, that we touched upon last week, needs to continue in today's khutbah as well. That psychologically, we don't accept anything less in this dunya, upon this dunya. That's the Quran, it mentions, وَلَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. Man will only have whatever he strives for. Obviously, some of us can interpret that regarding our deen and our affairs of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَكِنْ فَلَا حَرَجْ أَن تَأْخُذْهُ لُغَةً. There's no harm in taking it linguistically, because هذا سنة الله على الأرض وَلَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Man will have whatever he strives for. Whatever you put in general, sunnat Allah al-ard, whatever you exert to do upon this dunya, in general Allah will grant it. If a person is doing haram, Allah will grant that haram. Doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with that haram, but He allows it to take place for that person to get indulged in haram. Person strives for this dunya to get a mansab, a position, riyasa, some form of authority, wealth, power, dignity. Allah grants it to the individual, because this is sunnat Allah al-ard in general. It will be given to those people who strive for something, it's given to them. So this concept of mujahada, of striving and struggling on this dunya, we all follow that pattern. None of us will ever want to fall short in this dunya. We'll always have a contingency plan, a backup plan. If this doesn't become right in my life, or if this doesn't work out, I will go to plan B or plan C. This is what the psychological development of many of us, if not all of us. But the sad factor is, when it comes to deen, فَهُوَ مَاشِي حَالٍ. No effort. Just rely upon Allah. Just leave it at that. There's no backup plan. There's no contingency. There's nothing becoming over worried that maybe I am ill prepared. None of us are ill prepared for this dunya. In general, most of us are not ill prepared. Always worried about some funds, some wealth, some property. One person has children, their grandchildren, their parents, their loved ones, all of us. It's tabi'atul shakhs, tabi'atul insan. Person is worried. Even the companions were worried. They asked the Prophet ﷺ, how much wealth should we give? Should we give it all away in charity? Half in charity? He said, don't leave your own family members to be going around asking the people. So this is all of us. But when it comes to al-akhirah, you find a clear distinction between those people who clearly believe inside the akhirah and us, the average Muslims on the face of this earth at the moment. That we believe deviancy has crept in to some of us. The actions are not from Iman. That Allah is all forgiving, will pardon, will forgive. The actions have no impact. Whether you pray or you don't pray, Allah will pardon and forgive the individual. There's no need for me to exert in doing any extra actions. Or if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destined all actions to take place, then whatever I do inside my life will be sufficient. Allah will accept that from me. This is a mentality that is fast growing, unfortunately, inside our society. This over-reliant mentality of not doing much, or just doing the bare minimal. As long as somehow I creep into Jannah, as they say, then that will be enough for me. Or we find another mentality today. At least I'm doing something. At least I just prayed my Jum'ah. At least I just wore, may Allah excuse me for such words, a skimpy hijab on my head. Or just drew a little facial hair and say, this is my beard in Ramadan. At least I'm doing something. This mentality is a lost mentality. You may as well not do anything, not to diminish the reward of these people. Allah will judge them. But if this is the psyche of the person, if this is the mentality of the person, it's flawed. It's a flawed vision towards al-akhirah. Allah will judge these people. But this mentality, at least I'm doing something. Look at the people around us. We shouldn't be worried about the people around us. We all know what we need to do. There's selfishness, as we began with, about the dunya. Do we look at the people around us? Do we see a person squandering their wealth, wasting their wealth, losing their wealth? Do we say, well, I may as well just do the bare minimum? Or does a person outsmart that person? Or outsmart their own self to think, I shouldn't be making those mistakes. I shouldn't be investing my money in that manner. That's what a smart person does. And for the akhirah, the person becomes even more smart. Person doesn't look down at those individuals. Allah asks inside one's heart to guide these individuals, to bless these individuals. But the intelligent individual is the one who sees the mistakes of society, sees the mistakes of people, وَحَتَّى sees mistakes of aqarib, mistakes of the loved ones around them. Maybe some of our parents, the loved ones around us, that they fell short in certain things. Person thinks that in my life, well, my parents never got to perform Hajj. Why should I delay it? Why should I stagnate it? Maybe my parents never used to offer so vigilantly the 5 daily prayers inside their life. Why should I have that approach? Just like in the approach that most of us, we see our parents made certain mistakes living inside this environment in terms of investment and wealth or whatever it may be. And a person thinks that now I'm more intelligent than them. But in the akhirah, most of us fail to become intelligent and working towards the akhirah. And thus we find that why do we find such statements inside the Quran about a'mal inside the Quran? حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب ارجعون لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت. How will it be when death comes to an individual? And we find inside these ayat, inside Surah Al-Mu'minun, speaking about the believers. Well, death will come to the individual, person say, رب ارجعون لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت. So I can come back and do some actions in this world. Why is this person lamenting? Why is this person saying now at this moment in time, give me respite. Give me the opportunity to come down to this world. لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت كلا إنها كلمة هو قائلها ومن وراء برزخ حتى يوم يبعثون. You find that these are only empty words. Empty words, vain. These are vain words. They have no meaning now. And between them and the akhirah, between them and returning to this dunya, is a barzakh that exists there, and they will be in that state until the day of resurrection. So this is the person is crying out, is asking Allah, give me the opportunity to come back to this earth. Another passage in the Quran that we find, speaking about something very similar to this. من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول ربي لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكون من الصالحين ولن يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون. Similar verse that we find. Person will say, oh my Lord, when death comes to the individual, this person فيقول ربي لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب, give me some respite. Some more time. Give me some more time in this dunya. فَأَصَّدَّقَ, give some charity. And I become amongst the pious individuals. وَلَنْ يُؤَخِّرَ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهَا. Allah will never give respite, never delay an individual. Allah never takes, another psyche concept I find, Allah never takes anybody too early or too late in their life. كِتَابٌ مُؤَجَّلًا. Everything is destined for every single individual. No one dies too young, no one dies too late. It's all destined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this person wants to come back. Allah will never give respite, never delay a person, or never bring forth a person's death. Whatever is destined will fall upon that individual. Also, what we want to extract from these ayat are the end of Surah Al-Munafiqun, the 63rd chapter of the Quran. وَالشَّيْءٌ عَجِيبٌ. Something strange. Allah places it inside Surah Al-Munafiqun, a surah that speaks about the hypocrites. You know, as a side point in the Quran, it begins by speaking about first 3 or 4 ayat about the believers. The next 1 or 2 ayat speaking about the kuffar. The next 11, 12 ayat, a page in a soul. يَتَحَدَّثْ عَنِ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. That's why Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya wrote a whole risala based upon these ayat. صِفَاتُ الْمُنَافِقِينَ يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. Some 11, 12 ayat or so, speaking about the sifat of hypocrites. Why is the Quran beginning by speaking about hypocrites? Why is the Quran speaking in that nature? Why al-munafiqun? Because you find that this ummah will follow the sifat of those people that came before. You'll follow them footstep by footstep. And likewise this Quran, إِنَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ يَقُصُّ عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلِ أَكْثَرَ الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ يَخْتَلِفُونَ. Most of this Quran narrates about whom? About Bani Israel. Their hypocrisy, their breaking of the covenants, their breaking the agreements with Allah, their turning away from Allah, their blaspheming against Allah, their slaying of the Anbiya, Qatul Anbiya, slaying the messengers, the prophets, decapitating their heads, harming them, torturing them, punishing them, speaking ill of them, speaking ill of the Sharia, questioning the Sharia, creating doubts about the Sharia. You know, if you think about this, you find this to some degree, you find this amongst us Muslims today. Maybe not in that scale, but you find that mentality is there. That mentality of hypocrisy. And a strange thing to extract here from al-munafiqun, these hypocrites, is you find that zahiran, the most strangest thing if you read about sifatul munafiqeen, they never left external actions. That is the strangest thing about these individuals. You know what I'm referring to? Salatul Fajr, a munafiq will never miss it behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A munafiq would not miss it behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because right now they will be exposed. Look at our mentality today. Our mentality is that if I miss Fajr in Jama'ah, miss it behind the Imam, fala haraj. There's no harm. It's not that important. It's not a great big affair. Those munafiqun, they knew that if we missed it, we'll be caught out. And if companions missed it, maybe delayed or overslept, they will hide in the crevices of the walls. No one can see them that I've missed Jama'ah. Will feel ashamed, feel upset, get over worried. Look at our mentality today. This is the mentality that we have. We think nothing less of it. We're not worried about it. And may Allah forbid, our hypocrisy has become a psychological hypocrisy, a mental illness. Because at least their illness was one inside their heart. They had to conceal it. They had to externally display certain actions. We don't want to display actions. We don't want to display actions of a Muslim. We get shy of being a Muslim. We get deterred from being a Muslim. We want to cave in of being a Muslim. That's why day in and day out we find, I don't want to use such words, such trivial questions. Do I have to pray in front of a non-Muslim? فَأَيُّ إِيمَانْ هَذَا? What kind of iman is this? You don't even have that quwwah within your own self. Waqtu salah, making 101 excuses, feeling petty, feeling small, feeling mesmerized, feeling over worried. You're a Muslim. You're a believer. You have izzah, you have quwwah, you have iman. You have faith in Allah. What's so wrong about standing to offer your prayer, to break away for your prayer, to show your faith, to show your conviction? This is what the outer world wants around us. That religion, faith, becomes a personal identity, becomes a personal concept, that nothing about your faith is to display it in the wider world. And the strange thing is, kam minan nas, how many people just visualizing the prayer, just visualizing the prayer, have become Muslims. I saw with my own eyes. In one of the masjids of the Muslim country, we entered into Salah. We entered late for Salatul Isha. And we all began to offer the prayer. And there's a person next to us who's offering their prayer, or was trying to offer the prayer. Or firstly, they were standing at a distance. This is a Muslim country, secluded Muslim environment. We all felt strange that this person just standing there. Why are they just standing there? All types of thoughts went into all of our minds. Eventually, the person joined the prayer. We obviously stood up and we completed the prayer. This person just sat there. So this made us feel even more strange. First, he's not joining in the prayer. Secondly, he joins in the prayer late. Third, he doesn't complete his prayer. Who is this strange individual in a secluded Muslim environment? In a small village, you can say, all 110% Muslims. Who is this individual? So we turned to this individual and said, why didn't you join us in the prayer? He said, I'm not a Muslim. وَكَانَ يَبْكِي. كَانَ يَبْكِي was weeping. Was weeping, saying that just me visualizing your prayer shows your devotion. وَأَنَا فَقَدْ فِي نَفْسِي. And I thought in myself, كَمْ مِنَّا الْيَوْمِ أو في هذه الصلاة. How many of us in this salah were devoted to Allah? And he just saw Arkanu Salah, or he just saw the movements of Salah, and it drove him to weep. Drove him to weep, that thinking, and he was a Catholic by faith. From Italy, it drove him to think that this is real faith. This is real devotion. This is real commitment. And where is our commitment? Where's our amal? Where's our actions to show the commitment towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And likewise, we find life is a simple life. You know, we don't need to get bogged down in so much of detailed dogma and theory and theology that we find. It's important to know that there's no doubt. But كَلِّمُ النَّاسِ عَلَى قَدْرِ عُقُولِهِمْ. Speak to people what the average person wants to know inside their life. The awam, the masses of the people, what do they want to know? What do they want to hear? What do they want to learn? What do they want to be awakened up with? وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ. Wake them up with the days of Allah, of returning back to Allah. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. Awaken them with a final ayah inside the Quran, verse 283 of Surah Al-Baqarah, as Imam Suyuti mentioned. Awaken them. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Fear that day you go back to Allah. You meet Allah. Islam is a simple life, a simple message, a simple pattern. You find يَتْبَعُ الْمَيِّتْ ثَلَاثَةٌ. You find three things that go with a dead individual. أهله وماله وعمله. Simple life it is for a believer. Three things travel with you when you enter into the grave. Your family members, your wealth, and your actions. فَيَرْجِعْ اثْنَانْ وَيَبْقَى وَاحِدٌ. Two of them, which are beloved to all of us, as we began, one's wealth and one's children, they return. They walk away. What remains with a person? وَيَبْقَى عَمَلُهُ. The only thing that remains with all of us inside our graves and a day of standing is what? Our actions. And that's why this blessed brother, فَلَا حَرِجْ to mention his brother, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give due reward to Ali Banat, who passed away. Years of suffering. You know, this is what you call an intelligent individual. That's what you call an intelligent individual. And maybe that's what you call a secret blessing, that he knows he's going to leave this dunya. We don't know when we're going to leave this dunya, but possibly he's outsmarted all of us. That he knows that I'm leaving this dunya. So let me get prepared, equip myself to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing to be sad about for him. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, there's nothing to be sad about. Because Allah gave him the opportunity to know what he's doing. We should be sad. I don't know what's going to happen to me with my life. You don't know what's going to happen with yourself, with your lives. None of us know. But at least that we could do is awaken ourselves and begin to plan our life towards those actions that will benefit us. وَيَبْقَى عَمَلُهُ. The only thing that remains for the person will be the actions. احرص على ما ينفعك. It's a hadith in Sahih Muslim. Seek, hasten, rush, preserve, do things, hasten, do things. ما ينفعك, that which will benefit you. بادروا بالأعمال. Another hadith we find race in doing good actions. A passage in the Quran, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Challenge one another, race with one another, compete with one another in doing good deeds coming towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't become reliant on, as we mentioned, about the mercy of Allah. Or people try to use this hadith. You know, that's why I say we have an intellectual sickness. We Muslims, we know, most of us, we know a hadith, we know Quran. That's why you find these ta'wilat. Ta'wilat interpretations that existed before were deviant interpretations with possibly no real intent. There was possibly no real intent. Maybe just reading through, as they say, Greek logic and other texts and books, they made certain fallacies, made certain mistakes. But some of us, our mistakes are intentful. We make ta'wilat, we try to then hide behind them. A sickness in the mind that we find. If I listen to music, it doesn't really affect me. If I take drugs, it doesn't affect me. If I sit with a strange woman, it doesn't affect me. That's not really zina. If I take riba, I'm not doing riba what the world is doing. It's a different form of riba. I'm trying to take care of my business. I'm trying to help Muslims. Then you find another deeper intellectual sickness. That if I steal, if I rob from the kuffar, if I harm them, then I'm trying to do a good cause. I'm helping the Muslims out there in the Muslim world. Inna Allah tayyib wa la yaqbalu illa ma kana tayyiba. Allah is pure. Only accepts that which is pure. And like we find in Qa'idah of Usul al-Fiqh, that we find that the end does not justify the means. Just because you do haram and say at the end I give it to the people to help them, or give it to such people, that doesn't justify it. What is haram, that's it. You can't do it. But we find this intellectual sickness that we find developing more and more inside our minds. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's inside my heart. Allah will judge me. Yes, that's right. Allah will judge all of us. You find in the hadith, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى أَجْسَامِكُمْ وَلَا إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَلَكِنْ يَنْظُرْ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَإِلَى بَعْضِ الرِّوَايَاتِ إِلَى أَعْمَالِكُمْ. Allah doesn't look at your ajsam. Allah doesn't look at your bodies, your external display. That's what some people hide behind. Allah looks at your hearts. They stop there. But there's other ahadith that we find that checked by ulama and highlighted by ulama is Allah looks at وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَنْظُرُ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَإِلَى أَعْمَالِكُمْ. Allah doesn't just look at your hearts, Allah looks at your actions. We need to stop hiding behind that. Allah knows what's inside my heart. Allah knows that my heart is pure. The Sharia isn't designed for a single pure heart. You can't have a single pure heart saying that if I sit with a strange woman, then there's no affection, there's no feeling. Or if I shake hands with a strange woman, that's not really touching her hand because there's no shahwa within myself. The Sharia is not based upon individuals. It's not based upon personalities. The Sharia is based upon awam, upon masses that we find. That you find maqasid al-Sharia. Read about the intent of the Islamic law. Read in great detail what the Islamic law intends for people. It's not designed that people can bypass the law. It's not designed that some people escape the law, that some people become special identities or entities, that the law doesn't apply to them. The blade of the Sharia is one. It's one for everyone. That everyone person shares, that everyone falls underneath it and tries their best to exert it. There may be some minor exceptions for a woman who's come to an old age to maybe display some element of her beauty, but even in the Quran encourages for her to hide her beauty is better for her. So there may be some exceptions that exist there which can be used, but you can read into the parameters why they exist for a woman who's gone beyond the age of married, an elderly woman, etc. that we find, or a man gone beyond vigor, beyond any passion, that some things could be there that could be allowed for the person. But even then we find a person needs to be vigilant inside the life, vigilant of the actions and observance towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's we find hiding behind this hadith, that if your actions, they mean nothing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, paraphrasing the hadith, but rather it's the mercy of Allah. And none of your actions will get you to paradise. Well, even you, Ya Rasulullah, will your actions not get you to paradise? Said, no, not even you. Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enshrouds me with His mercy. So people try to hide behind this hadith and say that the mercy of Allah will cover us, will enshroud us. We don't need to do these actions. Ulama of hadith have dissected this hadith and they've explained this hadith in various forms. Amongst those forms that come to mind is firstly, that the concept of mercy here means, if you used to take your actions and to compare it to the mercy of Allah, then your actions have no value at all. No matter how many years of service you've done to Allah, if you take it and compare it to the mercy of Allah, it has no value. So you can't rely on your actions in that sense, to think that your actions in barter, in exchange, are weighable to the mercy of Allah, are weighable for you to be given something by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they're not. Because the mercy of Allah far encompasses our actions. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you to count the mercy of Allah, you cannot enumerate and count them. And some ulama mention when you go to count them, لِكُلِّ نَفَسٍ, every time you breathe, it's another blessing. So you can't count the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Inside Surah Ar-Rahman, the 55th chapter of Quran, some 86 or so ayat that we find. How many times does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeat? فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. More than 30 times. More than 30 times. Which of the blessings of your Lord can you reject? Which of them can you reject? Ya ayyuhal ins wal jinn. Not just this world, the world of the jinn. What can you reject? Some ulama tafsir that they mention that every time this was mentioned, the jinn began to affirm it, that we don't reject the blessings of Allah. But we, innal insana la kafur. But man is rejecting. Man is ungrateful. Man thinks but he has some right. That's what most of us we think. Another mentality that we have, we think we deserve paradise. That's what we think. We think that what we do inside our life, by default we should be given paradise. You find ibadah. The Prophet ﷺ, if there is any individual, and there is only one individual after all the rest of the messages and the prophets from our ummah, is the Prophet ﷺ, the seal of the prophets, of prophethood, is guaranteed paradise. Is guaranteed paradise. Doors of Jannah will open up when he comes there. Doors of Jannah actually opened before when he traveled to the night journey. When they asked who was there, and they said, we've only been told to open the custodian for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But you know, if you read through his life, tara, laysa ajab ajaib. You don't find a strange thing, you find many strange things. Wa'bud rabbaka hatta ya'tiyaka al-yaqeen. End of Surah Al-Hijr, the 15th chapter of the Quran. Wa'bud rabbaka hatta ya'tiyaka al-yaqeen. Worship your Lord until al-yaqeen comes to you. Al-yaqeen huna bima'na al-maut. He's addressing the Prophet that carry on. Look at us. I prayed Taraweeh. Let me rest. I prayed Fajr. Let me rest. I prayed my Jum'ah. That's good for me. I've done my Hajj. That's good for me. This is our capacity. And then we dream about lofty aspirations. We dream about the best place, the highest place, the best reward. The best reward is given to exertion. وَأَلَّيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. The more the person exerts towards the akhirah, towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَتَبَتَّلْ إِلَيْهِ تَبْتِيلًا. Remember your Lord and be focused and be committed towards your Lord, a complete devotion. So not just any form of worship, but a complete devotion. Here inside these ayat in Surah Al-Muzammil. قُمِ اللَّيْلَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Ulama tafsir mentioned that Qiyamul Layl was what? Was fard for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Was an obligation. Every night he would pray. Look at us. Excuse the words linguistically, moaning and groaning about Salatul Taraweeh. Complaining about it. Why is it so lengthy? Why is it so long? Do we have to read a juz? Ya ayyul ikhwa. Salatul Taraweeh, yes, there's no doubt. It's a sunnah muwakkada, highly recommended. But ulama mentioned there should be a justified excuse for you to miss it. That you're possibly traveling, or you have some genuine work commitments the following day, or some family commitments. A person shouldn't avoid it. That shows once again a mentality that we find the frivolous of excuses that we have. That I can't come for Taraweeh today. I'm just feeling slightly tired, I just want to rest. Whatever excuse it may be, or I have to do this the following day. Wallahi, you find that the nishat, the activity of the night prayer, it gives you strength. دَعْبُ الصَّالِحِينَ فِي مَا كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ. You find the way of the pious people before was this Qiyamul Layl. You know, some of us when we're young, we don't understand it. But you find as more the person travels inside their life and their journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you find that quwwah and strength comes via spirituality. You know, that's what some of us fail to understand. A person can physically maybe train their body, it's something good, there's no doubt. But real strength is spirituality. Real strength is spirituality within the heart, the mind, the devotion. That's why we find that some of the companions may have bodily structures that people may look at them. When a companion has skinny calves, and some of the companions wanted to make a joke about his calves, that the weight of these calves is mighty on the day of judgment of actions of this individual that we find. Bilal, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, read his sifat, his characteristics, wasn't the most beautiful of people. But what do you find? Bilal, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, what do we find about him? Every time he performed wudu, what would he do? He would read 2 rak'ah, units of prayer. The Prophet ﷺ said that I heard your footsteps in Jannah. How can the Prophet ﷺ hear his footsteps in Jannah? What's so special that you're doing, Ya Bilal? What's special that you're doing? that I heard your footsteps inside Jannah. There's nothing special that I do in my life, except that every time I perform wudu, I offer 2 units of prayer. Where are we from this? Where's our life from this? Day in and day out. It's only sunnah. Let's go and we find brothers talking for an hour outside between Maghrib and Isha. No sunnah prayed after Maghrib. No sunnah prayed after Isha. Even you find 2 sunnahs before Fajr that you find. That you find in the Ahnaf, you find strong kalimat. And the fuqahahim. Even the Imam is praying. Even if you have to miss one rak'ah, make sure you pray your 2 sunnah. Even that's not the qawl rajih, but it shows the emphasis based upon what? Hadith inside Sahih Muslim. The 2 units sunnah before Fajr is better than the dunya wa ma alayha wa ma fiha. Better than the world and whatever it contains. That's how a person should feel about the sunnah of Fajr. Likewise sunnah of the rest of the day as well that we find. But should be focused about that inside their life. These are a'mal, actions that increase the khair of the individual. وقولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولجميع المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Returning back to the best example for all of us, and without a doubt is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة. Indeed, for you to follow, emulate his character, his behavior is the best thing that a believer can do. And likewise, we find the end of Surah Al-Anbiya that we find وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We not send you except for mercy to all of the worlds. Look at the mercy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That you find that all his, if you can use the word sins linguistically here, even though ulama discuss it doesn't mean sins. It means choices, minor choices and judgments that he made. That all of his past and his future sins have been wiped out by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the hadith of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. She said that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this about you, then why is it that you're inside this night vigilant prayer? And what did he say? أَفَلَا أَكُونُ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Should I not become a grateful servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور. O family of Dawood, اعملوا actions, not belief. اعملوا, do carry out actions of ibadat, of ta'ah, of obedience. Because only a few of my servants, few of the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show gratitude or gratefulness towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Those who strive in our paths, we will guide them to our paths. The paths of what? The paths of turuq al-khair, the paths of goodness. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah is with the doers of good. Allah loves the doers of good. Is with those individuals who exert themselves. And thus you find what is al-muhsin, what is al-muhsinun. Go and study the most basic interpretation in a hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam. وَمَا الْإِحْسَانِ. Simple interpretation by the Prophet alayhi salatu salam. أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. Simple. We don't need text. We don't need deep discussions. It's simple. What is ihsan? You know, that's why you find sometimes, hatta ba'd al-awam, you find some of the average people, you know, their devotion to Allah, it far excels us. Far excels us. One of the ulama entered into the masjid, he said that I read my 2 rak'ah and I started reading some Quran. كان هنا شخص من العوام. من العوام, from the average person. كان ساجدا 40 دقيقة. 40 minutes was inside sujood. 40 minutes. But that one Ufakir began to think that maybe he's passed away, is everything okay? Then after some 40 minutes, he looked at him, Allahu Akbar, then he got out, weeping, crying. Min al-awam, from the masses of average people. They have this devotion to Allah. They want to awaken themselves, they want to remind themselves. أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Has not the time come for the believing individuals? Their hearts become subservient, become lenient, open up with the dhikr of Allah, with the remembrance of Allah, with the fear of Allah, khashyatullah, fear of Allah. It leads magnitudes. And that's why when a person has fear of Allah, khawfullah, then a person doesn't oppress anyone. Person doesn't harm anyone. Doesn't take anyone's right. This is one of the solutions to the world that we're facing. When a person doesn't fear Allah, doesn't fear in a day of reckoning, doesn't fear in returning back to Allah, then a person does whatever they want to do. And that's a reflection of many of us as well. We don't fear Allah inside our hearts. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah is watching over what you do. Whether it be khair or whether it be shar, Allah is watching over it. Allah is vigilant, knows, sees, documents everything that we're doing inside our lives. And thus we find, وَقُلِ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ. You find here, do the actions. And you will see your actions. Allah will show you your actions. And likewise, the messenger will begin to visualize your actions, all that you carry out. Thus we find other passages inside the Quran, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. Whoever does an atom's weight of goodness will see it on that day. Whoever does an atom's amount of evil will see it on that day. And likewise we find, مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا وَوَجَدُوا مَا عَمِلُوا حَاضِرًا وَلَا يَظْلِمُ رَبُّكَ أَحَدًا. You find on that day, person will say, what is the matter with this book? What is the matter with this record? What's the matter with this book? لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها. Any small minute thing I've done in my life, any major thing I've done in my life, has been documented. Has been documented. That's it. It's written down. And your Lord does not oppress any individual. And thus we find, and finally in conclusion, before we look at some of these bigger actions, and we have to speak openly. Many of you speak about these bigger actions, these bigger phenomena that we find. We're going to achieve this, we're going to do that. Let us build on grassroots. As we mentioned, that worry about what will take place immediately around us. With the mentality of worrying about the world around us is a good mentality. La haraj fi dhalik, but to become over worried about that, your life just revolves around that. Your life just revolves about the greater world. And you forget about yourself. Or you think that maybe that those greater objectives, I need to achieve them. You know, possibly 20, 30 years ago, maybe I felt the same way as well. That I'll make that objective in my life. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sunnatullahi al-ard, that He shows certain things inside the life of the person, shows them certain things, displays certain things. That this is the pattern, this is the methodology that will lead on to the ultimate success of this Muslim ummah. And that's those actions that many of us, we think that they're trivial. Or maybe as we mentioned about praying 5 times a day. Al-fara'id that we find, obligatory actions that we find. These are things that bring a person close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And likewise we find, take the appropriate relevant steps. We find a hadith, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ مَنْ طَالَ عُمْرُهُ وَحَسُنَ عَمَلُهُ. You find the best person is the one who's been given a long life. To do what? To do good actions. That's a sign of a blessing of a person, or being given to a person. They've been given a long life to obey Allah, to obedience. That's why some of us, we may find it strange or mystical. Persons carried out 40, 50 Hajj inside their life. How did they do that? Or they fasted so many years of Ramadan. You find barakah min Allah. In general, that you find that a person, ihfadillah yahfidhka. Preserve Allah, and Allah will preserve you. That's why some of the ulama mentioned, come to the age of 80, 90, that you find their faculties are still in place. And some of the students ask them that, why at this age? How come at this age all the people around you, your age, your peers, passed away or finding some hardship? We're not saying this is the old end rule, but in general that we find, there was barakah for them. They said that when we were young individuals, we guarded the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah guarded us now in this old age. We used to lower our gaze when we were young men, young individuals. We never went behind fawahish, between sinning, disobedience, guarded our ears, guarded our tongues, guarded our speech, guarded ourselves. So possibly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in return has guarded our bodies, preserved our bodies, given us this goodness. Not to say this is the all end rule, but that's a symbol of goodness. That the way kama tadinu tudan, the way that you conduct yourself is the way that you'll be given towards the end of your life, or whatever is destined for the individual. And thus we find that Jannah and Nar, Jannah is surrounded by obstacles. In the hadith in Muslim that we find, hujibat. We find Jannah as we find, or hujibat, or huffat in different narrations that we find. So Jannah has been surrounded bil makarih, via obstacles. And Nar has been surrounded by ash-shahawat, desires. Obstacles, as Imam An-Nawawi explained this hadith from Sahih Muslim highlights, the obstacles, a person needs to overcome obstacles to get into Jannah. Don't dare any of us think that Jannah is just to be walked into. Am hasibtum an tadkhulul Jannah. Do you think you're just going to walk into Jannah? Just going to open up for all of us. There's a path, there's actions, there's objectives, there's aims, there's actions person needs to do to become the people of Jannah. And thus we find amongst these actions, the struggling that we find is as-salah. The prayer that we find, as-salah ba'da as-salah that we find shows your devotion, shows your commitment, shows you breaking your sleep, shows you breaking away from the dunya, shows you breaking away from your commitments. That's Iman. Iman isn't, as we began to say, I believe in Allah, I know I have to pray, I'll pray for me, may Allah guide me. No, that's Iman. To lift yourself up, to awaken yourself, to drag yourself, to drag your soul, till eventually your soul becomes habitual. That, you know what, it sounds strange, your soul awakens you. Your soul awakens you and says it's time to go and pray. It's time for you to serve Allah. That's a level of ihsan, ma natasawwar. That's a level of ihsan that maybe not, some of us will never reach in our life. But when the soul awakens, that's that soul that we find. We said to this soul that return back, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna, irji'i ila rabbiki, radiyatan mardiyya, fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. Soul in contentment, in peace. You know, our souls within ourselves are broken, are fractured, are lost. Bayna dunya wal akhirah, bayna ladha, between sweetness of this dunya, between temptation of this dunya and the akhirah. Person needs to break the soul, break it within themselves, that the soul only becomes a yearning desire of al-akhirah. That's what the soul wants to achieve, and it begins to drag our bodily structures towards the akhirah. And thus we find likewise al-amr bil ma'ruf wal nahy anil munkar. Nobody wants to order the good and forbid the evil. Do you really think that you find A'immah want to come out and order the good and forbid the evil? Do you really think that we want to go and say to another individual, do this and don't do that? Do you think that a person finds some passion in doing that? The only reason why a person does that, kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. You're the best people ever raised up. You order the good and you forbid the evil. Wa Rasul kana yabki ala ummati. Used to weep for his ummah. My ummah used to weep for them. That you find his parable is given, a hadith of Sahih Bukhari. The fire is ignited, you find the flies and the moths go into that fire. He said, this is the parable of mankind. Most of mankind, from masirum ila nar. Most people are going to the nar, are going to the fire. I'm trying to stop them. I'm trying to prevent them. I'm trying to grab them. But they overcome me, enter into the fire. That's all that drives a person. That's what the Quran inspires a person to come out, to sacrifice their life, to sacrifice their time, sacrifice their family members for that purpose. Then you find the ultimate sacrifice. You think some people want to go and spill blood for the sake of spilling blood? Why do you think they have a conviction inside their heart? They have a belief, and Allah will place that inside certain individuals' hearts. You place it inside their hearts that there will be always parameters of the faith will be protected. It has to be a physical action. It can't be just a momentarily speech that we find. Somebody has to physically protect parameters that exist inside Islam, have to exist there. And we shouldn't shy away from that fact. Because that's what our deen teaches us. A life of action that we find. And as we find that in conclusion, all of us are close to Jannah. And all of us are close to the hellfire. That we find every single one of us that we find is as close to the hellfire like his right shoe or his shoelace. And each of us is close to the hellfire like his left shoelace. وَطُرُقُ الْخَيْرِ are many. Paths of goodness are many. Allah opens up many paths for the believers, for the Muslims. And as we began with this blessed month of Ramadan, opens up many paths for all of us to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thus we find فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. Throughout your life, try to develop that fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the open and the hidden factor. And likewise we find مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلِنَفْسِهِ وَمَنْ أَسَاءَ فَعَلَيْهَا ثُمَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ تُرْجَعُونَ. Whoever does goodness, فَلِنَفْسِهِ. You do some goodness now in this world, it's for your own benefit. And if nothing but helps you inside this world. And likewise you leave something behind. Sadaqah jariyah, ongoing charity. Waladun salih yad'u lahu. A righteous son that prays for you. You know, we should be worried about their education, worried about their life. There's no doubt about that. But what's the best thing that person can leave behind? The best thing they can leave behind is righteous children. That's you find Imam Suyuti mentioned in the dua inside the end of Surah Al-Furqan. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. He mentioned قُرَّةُ أَعْيُنٍ أَوَّلًا فِي الدُّنْيَا أو على الدُّنْيا. Sweetness, tenderness of the eyes
Forget about the akhirah. It's in this world. How is it in this world? When you see your loved ones, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your son, your daughter, your wife, your nephews, your nieces, obeying Allah. هذه الطمأنينة ما نتصور. This good feeling inside the heart of the individual. What more can a person ask for? Parents coming and always complaining, my son is doing this, my daughter is doing that. Or strange mentality, just over worried about the education. I'm not saying give up education, but they don't care if they don't pray. They don't care if they don't fast. That doesn't bother them. They don't become over worried about that. And then strangely, some of our children even do muharramat haram, and some parents don't care about that. But when they begin to practice their deen, some parents, may Allah guide them, become obstacles. Why are you praying 5 times a day? I've heard it myself intellectually say to the children, you don't need prayer. You're intellectually smart enough to pass your exam, to get on with your life. Prayer is just for those people who don't have much of an education, much of a life. We're not talking about non-Muslims, we're talking about our own Muslims. A defeated mentality that you find all comes from non-Muslims, of penetrating the psyche of our mind as we began with, weakening the substance of our faith and our iman. Awaken ourselves in this month of Ramadan, spiritually, awaken ourselves mentally, physically, that we are an ummah, a nation, which is not a weak nation, a weak people, a people to be trampled and to be trodden over. We're a strong nation, a powerful nation, a powerful identity, a powerful personality. That's what we are. A person should feel that within himself. When you defeat your own mentality within yourself, there's no point talking about greater objectives inside your life. There's no point when you're defeated within yourself. When you're strong within yourself, then even if you defeat the world around you, they defeat you. Then what do you find? There's no loss. There's no loss to you. There's no loss to your credentials. Because your credentials are with who? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your faith is one that's driven you to come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq and ability in His build up to the final 10 days of Ramadan to begin to exert ourselves, focus ourselves inside our life, begin to reassess our relationship towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reassess our prayers, our fasting, our obedience, our qira'atul Quran, our life, our amr bil ma'roof wa nahy anil munkar, our khuluq, our characteristics, our behavior. As we mentioned last week, many of us may do external actions, but we find that our characteristics, we still haven't understood the essence of Islam, of goodness, of kindness, of tolerance, of patience, of forbearance, of overlooking, of forgiving, of showing goodness, showing good words. All these elements that we find is the real teachings of the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us and envelope us with all these characteristics of the Quran. Inna Allah wa malaikatu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. ربنا افرغ علينا الصبر وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. قوموا لصلاتكم يرحمكم الله. Everyone take one small step forward and make more space for brothers who are waiting outside. There isn't going to be no second Jum'ah or second prayer, so make space for the people waiting outside so they can fit in, inshallah.